Hey, my name's Mike, and I'm a part of the Multiply group. And in this interview that you're getting ready to hear is a conversation that I have with Isaiah Hupp from Rez Church in Colorado. Isaiah is an incredible leader, and the work that they're doing in Colorado is amazing. I know it's going to encourage you. Check out this interview. So, Isaiah, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about this. Isaiah is a leader who is just thinking fresh about leadership development, discipling leaders in the church, and just ran across what they were doing at Rez. And I was like, man, I have to interview you guys because what you guys are doing, the intentionality that you're thinking behind discipling the leaders in the church is amazing. So I've got some questions we're going to get into. I let you know a couple of them, but there's one I was going to surprise you with.
All right.
Just as an icebreaker, it's kind of like that awkward small group. You know, you're like, oh gosh, here's the icebreaker guy.
Yeah.
So here it is. All right. If you could switch places with any other church leader for a day, who would it be and why?
Like nationally or like in my own?
Maybe just like a church leader in your church.
Man, I would
like, what's another role?
What's another role that I would? So my role right now is a campus pastor. And so I'm I do a little bit of everything. I think probably my passion over everything else is small groups. And so Jeremy, who's our small groups pastor, he gets to kind of be just in the weeds with all the small group stuff. And they did a chicken sandwich appreciation small group this year. So they're traveling to every chicken sandwich, like the national chains and kind of some of the deep dive gems that we have around. And so just the ability to kind of think creatively and then really have fun with what we do. So I would probably say that's really where my passion is at churches with groups.
Dude, I love that. And it's so funny to think about it that way, because I mean, you guys are thinking about it the right way. So many times, like ministry is like, oh, here's all the stuff I have to do. But to turn this thing into what, like going to find chicken sandwich places, and like you got like a chicken scavenger hunt. You just made it the most fun thing ever. Versus, oh, I got to meet with this person or I got to do this.
Well, and the point being connecting with people relationally and building that trust so that we can have, like, it's really hard to have a tough conversation with somebody that you don't know, or that you know you're kind of lording it over them. But when it's your friend and you have that deep actual connection with them, I mean, it's always easy to correct when you've had that connection piece. So
yeah, dude, that's awesome. So you mentioned campus pastor. We're gonna get in the other questions, but I did want to hear just a little bit about your role, campus pastor, and then Rez Church, just like a little overview about the church. I know it's multi-campus.
Yep. Yeah. So we launched our campus in September of 2019. So we've been going for a little over 3.5 years. We survived COVID.
Yeah.
Feels good. And our church has been around. We were Loveland First Assembly. So, an AG church in the early 1900s. So we've been around for over 100 years, became non-denominational in the 70s. And then our lead pastor, who took over 13 years ago, got connected with ARC and with Pastor Greg Surratt and kind of that whole crew in 2014. And the vision of the church being the engine for seeing lost people saved just broke his heart, and was like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been looking for. And so we made the switch from being kind of the non-denominational, like, I don't want to say unintentional, but just kind of, we're doing a lot of good things. And I think that we've made the transition to do, 4 things really great: to, see lost people saved and saved people pastored, and kind of that know God, find freedom, discover purpose, make a difference. And I remember when we first started to go through it, like my heart got set on fire for like seeing people come to know Jesus. That was the thing that really, made the difference for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a passionate leader, and definitely passionate about discipling, developing leaders. So what fueled that? What fueled that passion for you?
Yeah. So when I had I've been on staff for about 11 years. And so I was a youth pastor and associate youth pastor, and kind of moved all around that department. when I took over our youth department, I remember I was praying and having this time with the Lord. And I'm like, praying the right things. I'm praying, God, send us more students, send us more youth that we can reach and that we can minister to. And I remember it was, kind of that the Lord speaking to your heart, and it's really clear. And God was like, no. Like, what do you mean no? Like, God, don't you want kids to get saved? And I felt the Lord like, yeah, I do. It's like, okay, God, why no? Like, why won't you send me more? Why won't you send me more kids? And I remember the Lord just spoke to me. It's like, you don't have the leaders to take care of these kids. Like, why would I send you kids that you can't handle, you can't develop, you can't grow into having an authentic relationship with me? Like, when you develop leaders, then I'll send you more kids. And it was like such a wake up to me of like my main role as a pastor isn't to do the task of running a service or that kind of stuff, but it's equipping people, it's equipping leaders so that I can multiply myself and be as effective as possible. So that, I think that was like the spark that really lit my leadership desire on fire.
Man, such a powerful I've heard it talked about. Mac will talk about it, who we're going to talk about the books in a minute, but we'll talk about it as a conversion. And that's like one of those, that's for you, man. It definitely sounds like that's like, I can't do anything but this. This has got to be the answer. It's got to be the call. And so just to have that like wake up call, that like, that was a grace for the Lord to say no.
Right.
I'm reading through Acts right now. And Paul's wanting to go to Asia, and Holy Spirit says no. And he's, ends up going the other way. And it's funny, he steps into like the next part of the journey, and the first person who like gets saved on that journey is somebody from Asia. So it's like almost in like God's no, what he highlights is like something beautiful, and then like it's got the semblance or like enough of that thing that your heart desired for. Because you're seeing it now, a multiplication of what that original desire was for. And you're seeing so much more happen now to even where you are as a campus pastor. I mean, you've told me, the first time we met, just some of what you guys are seeing through developing leaders, and it's amazing.
Right. Well, and it helps keep my ego in check too. It's like if I just prayed for everything and got everything that I wanted, I'd be patting myself on the back and like, I got, so God's no is like the ability to like lean in and listen and to really know that it's not about me, and it's about what God wants more than what I want. So yeah,
that's awesome. So I mentioned Mac, and it's kind of like what got us, that's what, connected us, is you guys using some of the resources from Multiply Group. And it started, remind me if I'm wrong, it started at the multiplication effect, correct?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
got that? So tell me about that, the multiplication effect, and kind of what that introduced to you.
Yeah. So one of our executives had gotten connected. It was through ARC Resources. I don't remember exactly how, but he found the multiplication effect, and he bought, 15 copies and gave it to all of us on staff. And what I really loved about it is it was kind of the call of, here's why we do leadership development. And I think it's in the first chapter or two. I was kind of thumbing through it yesterday. It's been a little bit since I've read it, but it's one of those, like, it really does need to be like a once a year read for me. Just because it's so rich. But Mac says in the book, he said, if you are developing leaders, I'll botch this quote, but he said, if you're developing leaders because you have a leadership shortage or because of something that the leader can do for you, then you are at it all wrong. You are missing the mark. Like, if you're developing leaders because God loves people and he's put gifts on the inside of them that are for his glory and his kingdom, then you're gonna hit the mark, and you're gonna go further and faster. And that has been it deeply convicted me, because everything that I was doing, I'm like, well, I need this coordinator, so I'm gonna develop them, and then when they would leave, I would be so crushed. And so like, why did I even pour into that person, or why did God send that person to me just so they could hurt me? And kind of this pity party. And 2020 was the ultimate like stew in your emotions time, where God was really working on my heart through all that junk. And so to have a leader come and clearly tell me, the way that you're doing this is unsustainable. It's going to be a detriment to your leadership development, because eventually I'll just stop developing leaders. Like the pain is too much in church life to pour in and then to be turned around and feel betrayed and feel that stuff. But if I'm developing people for God's kingdom, then everything that I pour into somebody is a win. Whether that means that they go and start at another church, or they move across the country, or they get offended and need to walk away for whatever reason, everything that I poured into them, they're going to take to their next season, and it will help somebody down the road. And so I think just even that wake up call to here's the why behind leadership development. I bought in quick with that kind of language. And then the other thing that I really loved about multiplication effect is it really did help, especially at that lead team level, give our leaders and stakeholders kind of here's how we're going to do it. And so in the book, Mac Lake kind of talks through, like, are you going to do it individual one-on-one? Are you going to do a class? Are you going to do kind of some different strategies on how to do it? And so we were able to kind of come through. So part of my campus pastor training, we went to John Siebling's church in Memphis, and they were just getting ready to launch. I think it's called Second Step or Second Mile is what it was called. And it was this really amazing leadership development class that they had. And I remember coming home and being like, hey, let's do something like this, or so being kind of like a dog chasing cars with leadership development. There's so much good stuff and there's so many ways to do it, but being able to like have a resource where we could come together and say, this is, there are a ton of good ways to do it, but this is the primary way that we're going to focus on developing leaders. And now we're going to have that be the expectation for everybody church-wide. The unity and clarity that multiplication effect helped bring to us was incredible, really, really helpful.
It's so good. What you're talking about, like, you can get lost so much in the content. There's so much good content, and it's all like really simple, but the fact that it's done is like why it's all good content. Like, there's a lot of churches, leaders that we talk to, and we're like, oh, for like the discipleship of just like basic discipleship things. And we'll talk about things like the purple book, or, like basic disciple yourself kind of stuff. And there is a cloud of content and programs that you could like get and chase and change all the time. But what you're talking about is like making a decision and like, hey, we just need to do this and we need to be consistent at it. And you guys have, and, watching and seeing what you guys are doing. And then specifically with the Discipling Leaders series, tell me a little bit about how that has helped kind of with, you guys don't call it Second Mile, you guys call it Leader Track, which I think is awesome. Leadership Track, which is, just beautiful ARC language. I think everybody, has heard of Growth Track, and even if they don't know where it came from, like, it is, it's in that world. And so this as that second step to that, and really discipling now the leaders of an organization. Tell me a little bit about how the Discipling Leaders series has helped develop leaders for Rez Church.
So after we read Multiplication Effect, we bought Leading Others, which is kind of that team lead type of level. And so where I was at is as a campus pastor, I have 2 coordinators who are part-time staff. So my worship, my kids coordinators are part-time staff. And then every other leadership position is a volunteer. And so my heart and my goal, especially when we first launched, was to have a weekly or bi-weekly one-on-one where it's just kind of that we're building relationally, we're connecting, we're talking about, what's the strategy moving forward, and me trying to empower my team and letting them know, A, that I cared about them, and B, that we're empowered to do what they saw fit. And then after that, our one-on-ones got to kind of like, you good? We're good? Great. I mean, and so, and not that I didn't have anything to say to them. It's just, how do I properly bring somebody up and empower them to be like empowerment takes trust and clarity. And so I think I displayed a ton of trust, but maybe not a ton of clarity on the back end. And that breeds confusion and where people are like, I don't quite know what to do, or I don't know if I'm doing a good job. And so with the book Leading Others, it's, 8 modules or 8 different kind of chapters that I can one by one go through with my team and like, hey, here's when I say that you're discipling the people that are on your team, here's what I mean by that. Let's do a whole deep dive on what does it look like to make disciples. It's simple. It's helping identify somebody's next step and challenging them to make that next step and then walking with them through it. And it's like, and really, I mean, that's just module 1. I think from module 1, we could live there for probably 5 years and not really have to go much further. Because really that's like that's our heart, is when people plug in and take that next step. It's like, hey, just let's continue to keep them growing and what that next step is, and letting them self-decide, like, hey, what is my next step and my challenge. And but then from there, being able to talk about creating healthy teams, being able to do a deep dive on empowerment and what does that mean, and so far and so on. And so it really just helped me to actually have effective one-on-ones and to have an effective way to systematically move somebody through into a place where I feel like they're doing a good job and they feel like they're doing a good job. And celebrate together.
Just being able to prepare them well. It's so funny how many times we get like disappointed of like somebody like they are in this leadership role now and don't know how to, do basically like one of these simple, like they don't have the competency of like, whether it's feedback or discipling others or team building or any of those things. You're like, wait, what in the world? And this, what you're talking about, it gives you basically almost like a conversation guide for them to have the discovery, the self-discovery, and then the transformation that like, this caliber now of a leader, like who you've appointed into this role to provide leadership. It's like there's a trust now that you have to them because you've seen how they walk through these scenarios in preparing for that leadership.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, the book gives me a great framework to where I can hand it over and say, now you turn around and do that with people that you're leading. And so instead of me being responsible, like, okay, I've got to be I'm the team builder. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm the one who actually just helps other people on my team to be able to continually develop and be a part of all of that stuff. So
that's awesome. Well, you guys are crushing it. The last question I want to ask is, what advice? You've been doing this for a little bit. What advice would you give other churches who are starting to focus on developing their leadership pipeline?
Sure. A couple of things I would say. I'd say number one, get into alignment together. So whoever the decision makers and stakeholders are, like sit down at a round table or sit down, like have a safe place where you can sit down and say, what is going to be the strategy and why are we going to do it like that? And there's so much alignment equals acceleration. And so if you have, two different departments, or if you're siloed at all, it's going to be more sideways energy than it's worth. And the conclusion will be developing leaders isn't worth it. But alignment solves so many of those problems. And then I would say, get resources or get somewhere that is doing it better than you, and just lean in and ask questions and figure out how to do it. And this is why I was so thankful we've got Mac, who is he led an ARC, and he led like there was like a few different places that he was leading with that it was like, this isn't just an ARC principle that we can hang on to. This is like worked over several different places and it's a proven model. And so find that proven model and be able to put it into your culture. And but above everything is have unity, get into alignment together, and then make those decisions to stay in alignment.
Yeah, man, it's a proven principle because it's not our principle. It's literally Jesus modeled this principle of how we can disciple leaders around us. And man, I'm so excited for what you guys are doing. And I know you're passionate about leadership development because you're doing this call on Easter week. You're doing this call on Holy Week. So only a pastor who's fired up about leadership development is going to say yes, doing an interview about it in the busiest week of the year, probably besides Christmas. So thanks so much for hopping on the call today.
For sure. Well, yeah. Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. And we're just really the Multiply group and everything that you guys have done for us, like whatever you need, my answer is yes. So you got a lifelong devoted fan here.
Thanks for checking out the interview today. I hope that it encouraged you. If you want to take a next step and learn how you can develop more and better leaders, you can book an Explore call right now at multiplygroup.org/book. You can also go to multiplygroup.org and find other ways that we can help you take your best next step at developing leaders.